Welcome to the Wayne Bennett podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to the Wayne Bennett podcast. My name is Wayne Bennett. This is our 40th episode. I'd like to give a big shout out to Doug Lowe. We're taping this on November the 6th, and today's his birthday. Also a big shout out to all the local football teams that qualified for the state playoffs. There was 4 from Raleigh County, Independence, Liberty, Woodrow, Wilson, and Shady, Midland Trail, Meadow Bridge, Greenbrier West, Nicholas County, James Monroe, and all the way down to Mount View. Congratulations, guys, and good luck to you. And today our guest is, you can't talk about Beckley Sports unless you mention the Kidd name. And today our guest is Steve Kidd. Glad to have you, Steve.
Good morning, Coach. Glad to be here.
And before we get too in-depth, I'd like to congratulate Steve is the head coach at the Park Middle School Roadrunners. And this year they head football coach, and this year they completed the season undefeated, 8-0. And kids did a great job. And I'm sure you guys are celebrating a little bit. Who was your assistant coaches?
Patrick Williams, who was a former player at Woodrow Wilson and at West Virginia State, and Mike Folks.
You guys did a good job. Congratulations to you. Let's talk about Steve a little bit. When you were younger, did you play organized sports?
Yeah, started out, I guess around my third grade, fourth grade year, going up to the Old Y, just kind of hanging out, playing on Saturdays, and then got involved in the, the youth sports there at the YMCA, the old YMCA.
Did you play baseball or anything?
I did. I played baseball for a guy named Bob Stewart. Was my first coach in for the minors and the majors. Played for the Royals and for the Tigers. For Mr. Stewart, was a great guy.
He was the peanut guy. He sold for Tom's Peanuts. Yeah, his actually my son played for his boys.
Rob.
Yeah,
Rob, and Kyle. And, yeah.
They did a real good job. Now at the Y, tell us a little bit about your family. Your mom is Dolores and your dad is Norman.
Yes. My mom is Dolores. She worked for a long time started at the Beckley newspaper office, the old Beckley newspaper across from the I guess it would be the old police department right now. Worked there for years and then went to WSWP TV where she retired. And my dad worked for Appalachian Hospital. Started out when he was 19 years old. Started out washing clothes at Appalachian Hospital. Worked there until he retired there.
You have brothers?
Yes, David, of course, is my brother. There, he's in Gwinnett County, Georgia, right now. So I get down to see him, and his son is the quarterback right now at Mountain View High School.
Now he had a daughter could play basketball too.
Yes. Lexi is her name. She was all-time leading scorer at Ironton High School. Went on to JMU, James Madison, and then from there she was assistant coach this past year at NC State. Of course, they got beat in the Final Four, and then from there she got hired back at Marshall University, where she's an assistant right now.
Now, Dave was on that 1988 Woodrow Wilson team when Dave Barksdale came back. And he'd been there for 4 or 5 years. And it was the first trip, I guess, they made to the state tournament in about 10 years.
Yeah, I think that was the first trip since 78, I want to say, with Chase Williams and that group. I think was the last group to go to state tournament before the 88 team, yes.
Now, you're coaching the YMCA. Was your dad was your first coach, wasn't he?
Yes, and a guy that you would know is Lil John.
James Littlejohn.
Yes.
Chuck's
it would be
dad.
Chuck's dad, yes. It was those two were my first two coaches there. And actually, we finished the season undefeated there. I always tease Bob Bolin about that one.
But now, when you went to, you played in junior high, where'd you play at?
I went to Stratton Junior High. Of course, I live right, 2 streets in behind there. So I went to Stratton Junior High there. And before that, I went to Lincoln. Went to Lincoln Elementary.
Who was your coach at Lincoln?
Mr. Moy was our principal, and I think he did a lot of the coaching. I can't remember my other coach's name there.
That's the way it was back in the days. A lot of times the principal was the only man in the school too.
Yes,
back in those days.
I had one male teacher I can remember through elementary school.
And junior high, who was your coach there?
Melvin Ross, of course, was a football and track coach, and Wayne Anderson and Von York were my basketball coaches.
And Wayne and Vaughn both played at Shady.
Yes.
Wayne was pretty outstanding basketball player then. And Vaughn was an outstanding baseball player too.
Yeah.
Played down at Concord. And then when you went to high school, Gary Nichols was your coach. He had came along after Jackie Robinson, I guess.
Yeah, Jackie Joe was actually there in my 10th grade year, and he was there for maybe 2 days before, because I had him as a PE teacher. And he was there for 2 days and told us, he was leaving, that he had taken the job, I guess, with IBM and Tech World or somewhere like that, because I know he moved to Northern Virginia, and I'm pretty sure it was IBM or somewhere like that. So, of course, Gary took over with I think Coach Rose and Miller Hall were his two assistants.
And that team, now Ron Kidd played on that
Yes.
team that year, didn't
Yes.
he? And then Bobby Bolin and Bo Green and that.
Yeah,
that
Dennis
much.
Goodson, Steve Jones. We had a talented group. I mean, very, very athletic, very talented, but for some reason we just we didn't mesh well, for some reason. But I thought we were as talented as anyone.
Well, I know when you were a senior, you had Robert Cobbs and Steve Derry and that bunch, and then y'all started out really good, and then it kind of fell off there at the end. Did Oak Hill beat you in the sectional?
Yes, Oak Hill beat us. My junior and my senior year, we got beat by Oak Hill there. Well, Preston, I think, beat us my senior year, but Oak Hill had, they had a good team. They had 3 Division I players on that team: Speedy Jones, Mark Peterson, and they had a good team also.
There was many years that probably the state championship was decided in that sectional when Oak Hill and Beckley had their good teams.
Yeah,
and,
especially when Coach Barksdale had those groups, and they had a good group at Oak Hill.
Now, you didn't play football in high school, did you?
No, I didn't. I played at Stratton, and we finished 7-1. And them guys actually teased me about that. We lost to Beckley Junior High on the last play of the game. We had quarterback sacked to keep the game tied. The horn went off. Our player let the quarterback go, and he kept on running and actually threw it to the corner of the end zone. And a good friend of mine caught a touchdown pass named Rusty Mance, one of my oldest friends. He caught the touchdown right in the corner of the end zone right there to beat us with no time on the clock.
Now, Rusty, did he go to college down in Winston-Salem or somewhere?
Yes. A bunch of those guys I graduated with, Rusty, Vernon Knight, who's a good friend of mine, still keep in touch with him, Mike Bandy, and Harold Harrison, all of them out of our senior group, all went to Winston-Salem State.
Now, when you were in high school, too, you ran track. Did you run all 3 years, or did you?
Actually, I just ran my senior year.
Your senior year,
yeah.
That was a pretty good year. That 1982 team. Did y'all win a state championship at 4x1?
We won the state championship in 4x1, 4x2, shuttle hurdles, and I think we finished second in the 4x4 and 4x8. So we had a very well-rounded team. Also. In the low hurdles, they wasn't 200 meters in, 180 I think is what it was. We had 3 places. Vernon finished first, I finished second, and a sophomore named Mike Brown, who ended up being a big time runner. He finished 5th, so we had 3 places in the low hurdles.
And that shuttle hurdle team, I think their record's still there, isn't it?
Yes. Between myself, Vernon Knight, Mike Brown, and William Cousins. They're still on the state record today.
That's probably the oldest state record out there.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And that was a pretty good crew there. Of course, after you graduate in 82.
Yes.
And you went to Concord. Of course, you had said that your track coach, Pete Colacerto, you've told me a couple of times that he was a huge influence on you as far as as a coach and as a person, and you probably, I know I've heard him say several times he wished you'd have played football in high school. You cost him a state championship.
Yeah, we've talked about that a few times there, and actually I feel like I was a much better football player than basketball player. I really had to work to become a pretty good basketball player, but though football just came natural, but I really liked playing basketball a whole lot more than football.
So when you went to Concord, was that Don Christie was down there?
Yes, Don Christie was the head coach. Steve Cox was assistant, and Will Johnson. Will Johnson was.
He's a big
officer.
guy.
Yes,
yeah.
He's great person.
Yeah,
great person. I always make sure. Actually, I went down 2 weeks ago to watch a football game, and I always look for those guys. Those guys were a big influence on me.
Now, I heard that the very first game that you ever started at Concord, you had to guard Sidell Threet. And for the fans out there that don't know who Sidell Threet is, I think he came up here from Georgia, didn't he? I don't know how he ended up at West Virginia Tech down in Montgomery, but he was a player of the year in the conference. He was a leading scorer a couple years in a row, and he ended up playing for the Los Angeles Lakers and had a stellar NBA career, 12, 13 years.
Yes,
and he was the first guy you had to guard.
Yeah, he played for the Sixers. He played in Seattle, and yes, he was my first time starting. That's who we were playing, and they had already beaten us once. They had beat us by 30-some points on our home floor. So to me, I felt like that they were, they had taken us lightly. They didn't expect us to beat us. And they came out and that's what they played like. And I mean, we played good. We had a pretty good team too. We had a guy named Tracy Poindexter.
I remember him.
Yeah, he led the conference in scoring there a couple of years there, and I tell you what, he put it on them that night too. He must have had 40 that night. And only thing I done, I didn't turn the ball over and I played good defense. That's the only thing I could do there. That's my claim to fame on that win there.
Of course, during the time that you were at Concord, you guys played summer ball, and that's when Ron was still playing, and you guys started a team that was pretty prevalent there in the summer league. That's that summer league that Barksdale had, and it was called. Your team was called the Beckley Kids, and you guys won that thing about every year, didn't you?
We won quite a few of them. I think we may have lost 7 games in 13 years or something like that. We didn't lose very, very often, And the name come from because my family, I think it was 4 of us kids, Keith Kidd, Ron, myself, some family members there to, started that team. And that's just where it came from. And it was just a bunch of friends that hung out together, went to school together, grew up together, and we played together. So. And
during your college career, you got into some lifting weights and stuff too, kind of building up a little bit. And I remember Coach Christie, your senior year, had described you as one of the premier guards in the conference, and it kind of went along. The last home game that you had before the tournament, you had, 27 points and 8 rebounds and 7 assists. Probably the best game you had.
Yeah, wait till the last game of my career to have the best one. Yeah, and I was a little upset I didn't get that triple-double. I needed 2 more rebounds and a couple more assists to get that triple. But that was it was a good night, bittersweet night. Those guys treated me well, made me grow up to be a young man.
Now, when you got out of college, you started teaching at Stratton?
Actually, I started substituting at Stratton. I never got hired there, but I got hired as an assistant coach to Bernie Balsick before I even got an actual teaching job. My actual teaching job was at the alternative school with Russell Manns and Ron Sauls and a guy named Pepper Anspaugh.
Uh-huh. So how long did you coach at Stratton?
I'd say 7 years or so. I think I was only there for 7 years. But we coached everything. I helped a little bit with football, and then I would end up being the girls track coach, and then along with basketball also.
Y'all had a pretty good run in basketball, didn't you?
Yeah, very good. After that second season, I think, because that first year I was there, we played kind of like all 6th graders. People like Brian Neighbors and all those guys were 6th graders. So we took our lumps. But after that, after them guys grew up a little bit, we had a great run of teams. I guess we probably won 90-some games there. And, 4 or 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember seeing some of those games. It was something else. And then about that time, Bobby Bolin had been at Park, and then he had, as a coach, and then he went to Woodrow as an assistant, and then he took over the job at College of West Virginia. And you helped him up there, didn't you?
Yeah, I was only there for 2 years, but it was a good learning experience. I mean, you got to travel and see some great competition, and it was a tough job getting that getting it off the ground and getting it started. And Bobby did a great job with getting it up and running. But I was only there for 2 years.
And then, did you ever think you'd want to coach college again?
No, I kind of liked the high school level a little bit more. It was a little bit more structured, getting out, when you're still teaching in the school system and you got to go around and travel. And, sometimes I can remember being in Dayton on a Thursday night, a big snowstorm, and, I had to be back to work on Friday morning. Those guys, they didn't have to come back. But a good friend of mine today, Roy Blankenship, he volunteered to ride back with me. So we drove all the way back from Dayton, get home about 3 or 4 in the morning and sleep for an hour and go to work at the alternative school. So, talked to Bobby and told him, it's just too much. It was too much on me there.
Somewhere along that line, were you helping Pete a little bit with football?
Actually, I got hired. As the track coach. But really, they couldn't find a track coach. They couldn't find anybody because I think it was Gary Nichols. I think before me. And when he resigned, they posted the job, and then nobody applied. And at the time, I was still at the alternative school, and a good friend of mine today, Shannon Ross, was going to be a junior. I mean, he come to my house and like, hey, we need a coach. We don't have a coach, Eric. Could you apply for it? We really need somebody. So I went up and talked to Coach Cool there a couple times. Me and him sit around and talk, try to figure out what our problem was. Why come we weren't still on top in track? And the kids weren't coming out. They just weren't coming out. We thought they were still in school, but we couldn't get them to come out. So eventually I applied for it, and I did get the job. So what I tried to do is just hang around. I'd go to football practice every day and just try to get to know the kids, and that way try to build my track program through the football program. So eventually, me being there every day, I was in the groups with Coach Barham and Mike Ross.
They gave you some work.
Yes. And I was there every day. It wasn't like I was getting paid or anything, but, I had an agenda. I knew what I needed to do in order to get that track program back. Well, the next year, Mike resigned and went to Park. I guess he come to Park as the head football coach. Well, I sat down and talked to Coach Cool again. I'm like, hey, I'm here every day. You want to teach me what you need me to do, and I'll be glad to step in Mike's place and help. So that's how I got involved with Woodrow football.
Now, in the track program, I mean, it had dropped off and couldn't find a coach, and I mean that they had won 7 state championships earlier, and I mean that was a lot of big shoes to fill, and then kind of a lack of interest, and it was something to build back up. But so how long did you coach track then?
I'm not sure exactly how many years.
But now Pete came and helped you, didn't he?
Yeah, he stayed there. He was the assistant. He gave up the head job to Gary Nichols. All right, and then when Gary quit, he said he didn't want to be the head anymore. So that's when I stepped in there. And I'm not sure exactly how many years I was there as the head coach. But once Coach Cool retired there, then I had to find people to help me, and you can't replace his knowledge. So whatever he said, I was taking it in. I still talk to him about track and football and stuff like that. That knowledge that he has. That
and around 2000, you took the assistant basketball job. Ron, your kid, had got the head coaching job, and I was actually on the committee that hired Ron, and to me it was a give me. I mean, he was the obvious choice as far as I was concerned. He first time I ever seen Ron, I was actually coaching basketball at Sophie Elementary. People don't realize that I coached basketball for a year and a half, and our kids won because even in spite of my coaching, they did pretty good. But we were up at Central playing in the old rec building, and Larry Buchanan was the basketball coach there, and Ron was in the 5th grade. And when they came out to warm up, I said, man, look at that little guy over there. We got these guys, because we had a pretty big old team. They wore us out and sent us back home. But Ron took over the job at Woodrow in 2000, and you were the assistant. How did that go? You and Ron working together?
It was fine. It's you step in behind Coach Barksdale. Whatever you do, it's not going to be the right thing. But you just got to go out and work and do the best you can. And we had a good group of kids coming back. Had Mike Ross and Nate Mans and that group. So we had some talent back there. We made it to the state tournament. I think we got beat by GW, I think, that year. I think they had a good team that year.
That was 2004?
That was 2000.
2000?
That was 2000. 2004, remember, we won the whole thing. We won 17 straight games. We were 5-3 after the Cold Classic, I think. I can't remember who beat us in that. We had some guys quit that I thought wasn't positive. I'll put it that way. They weren't positive for our team. And after them guys quit, we never lost again.
I've been hurt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then Gene and Brian Neighbors started helping you guys some too. And in 2007 is when Ron had some health issues.
Right.
And did he start the season at all?
No, he didn't. There, he was around at the beginning for practices and things like that, but he didn't start the season at all. I think he came the 7th game, maybe somewhere around there. I'm not sure.
I think you guys were like 7-3 or something when he came back,
Yes.
and so you were the interim head coach,
Yes.
and Brian and Gene were helping you. And did y'all win it that year?
We that was been 2008 season. Yes, that would have been Travis Parklow and Mike Fortune, Ryan Powers, Rodriguez, Walton. We had a good group of kids there. Some hardworking kids. They weren't as talented as the 2004 team, but they worked just as hard as any group of kids that ever been around.
And then I think Ron ended up being coach of the year,
Right.
wasn't he? And,
Yes.
And I'm sure he was willing to share some of that glory with you because you kind of got him kicked off on the right foot, I guess. But
Yeah, we leave it at that.
during that, somewhere along that line, you ran the girls' summer league, and when did that start?
Actually, I think Ron was in charge of that until he took the job at Woodrow. I can't remember who was in charge of it before I took over, but Bernie Bostic and I kind of split the duties there the first year, and then Bernie gave it up and left it to me. And between myself and Bobby Smith, Nelson and Rocky Ross, we kind of took over and kind of built it up to where it was a pretty good league. We had middle school teams, we had junior high school teams, and then we also had about 8 teams of women. Women's teams.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew you had about 30-some teams at
One time we had 36 or 37. If you got one gym, that's too many teams to have there. So, but some of them teams, they go out of town. They gonna miss a week or two, and the scheduling part Jeff Graham did for me, and it was hard. It was very hard trying to schedule around people. We can't play on Tuesdays, or we can't play till after 8 o'clock and stuff like that, But without Jeff Graham, it had never got off. It had never done well.
Do they still have a girl?
Yeah.
I know the girl's been kind of hot and cold on the.
Yeah, I think Brian Neighbors is running it, and I think they're playing at Stratton Elementary. And once I gave it up, I hadn't been involved. They kind of moved us out of the gym at Park. So then we were, scrounging around trying to find places to play.
Yeah.
Mr. Rappo helped me get the gym at West Virginia Tech. So they let us play up there for 1 year. And then after that, we had to move, and I wasn't doing it anymore. I wasn't scrounging around trying to find somewhere else to play. And it went down a little bit, but I don't know how many teams he had.
But you'd quit track And then you came back
Yes.
when 2016?
Yes, yes.
And 2017, you guys were runner-ups in the state,
Yes,
weren't you?
yes,
And,
yes. We had a good group of kids. And actually, before I quit, or after I quit, I went to Park.
Uh-huh.
I went to Park and coached track and was doing football. And so we had good team, Naquan Carrington, and we had some good athletes. Brent Osborne, all of those guys come out, and not only did they play football and basketball and ran track and played baseball, that was a good run of athletes I thought we had up there.
And you also started Woodrow Wilson High School Track Hall of Fame, and that was, you've had some good people, and you have to do a lot of history and to go way back, and then a lot of state champions, individual state champions, team state champions, and do you still have a track meet that sponsors that?
Yes. It's the Beckley Relays, which involves all our Hall of Fame meet, and you've done most of the research on those, trying to get our athletes in. But every year we plan on having that meet there. It's going to be in April the 28th, I think it's going to be this year. So we run two meets. We run a P. Culacerto meet, which is just for all the area middle schools, and I think that this year that's going to be April the 7th.
Uh-huh.
And then the high school meet is Beckley Relays. Hall of Fame meet is the 28th, I think is what it is. And it's, like I say, it's tough. It's tough running meets, trying to find people you can count on to help.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of the receptions you've had for the Hall of Fame, and the guys that are being inducted, are really gracious and humble,
Yes.
That you're doing that, because
Yeah.
a lot of schools don't do anything like that.
Yeah, not for track. And actually, it was the ideal of Lisa Harden. If you remember Lisa Harden, she was on the 81 team.
Uh-huh.
And not the girls team that I can't remember where they finished, but I think she was in like the top 5. She ran the hurdles and shuttles and stuff like that. But it was actually her idea. She just tried to bring in some people: Susan Osborne, Angie Culacerto, myself. Right now, and there's John Chappelle, Steve Thompson, Paulette English are our committee members right now.
Uh-huh.
And you, of course. So.
What do you, as Steve Kidd? What's on your bucket list? What do you want to accomplish? You've accomplished a whole lot in your lifetime, and you've been recognized. Maybe not enough, but you've certainly been recognized. People know who you are, and when you talk about, like say, Beckley basketball and Beckley track, the Kidd name is very popular and famous and noted for sure. But what do you personally want to accomplish?
I think I've accomplished a lot. I'd like to. Me growing up in my neighborhood, we had people like C.W. Clater, Kenny, Marvin Washington. We had guys like that were good guys and good leaders in your neighborhood. You always hear people say it takes a village or a neighborhood to raise a kid, and that's kind of like what I would be, what I'd like to do. I'd like to be something positive in my neighborhood, and without those guys, who knows where myself and other kids in the neighborhood, who knows where we'd be, without people like that.
Absolutely, I agree. Listen, Steve, it's time is flying. We're just getting started. You're gonna have to promise me you'll come back and we're gonna talk some basketball. We'll get about the middle of basketball season, and we'll get you back here and get your expertise, if you don't mind. Would you come back and see us?
Definitely, anytime you like, Coach.
Okay, well, anybody else out there, if you want to be on our show, just contact me at awbennett50@gmail.com, and we'd love to have you. Or check us out on Facebook, like us, and follow us. We really appreciate that. It kind of helps us in our ranking nationwide. And people ain't going to believe this, but we were ranked 27th in the nation in the spoken word category this past week. And that's the truth. And we're number 1 in Stanford and Lanark, that's for sure. And until next time, remember, if you ain't dead yet, you're not done yet. And this is Wayne Bennett saying God bless you.